She was dubbed as Australia's worst serial killer. A genetic mutation took away the young mother's 40 years. What is COMP2 gene mutation? Will it have come to her rescue now? Hi friends, I am Edwin Williams, EJW Science and Research News, EJW News Podcast. Kathleen Folbigg, before reaching 30 years, was branded Australia's worst serial killer. She was jailed for 40 years on charges of killing her four infants. Were the charges substantiated? Scientific world thinks no. It doubts the integrity of the judgment. The judge, jury, and the prosecutor think otherwise. A large number of scientists, including Nobel Prize winners, question its wisdom. She was viciously attacked in jail. Reason? Her four children died as infants due to SIDS, that is, sudden infant death syndrome, between 1989 to 1999. Dr. Alan Carr, the pathologist conducting autopsy on her fourth child, Laura, at the New South Wales Institute of Forensic Medicine in Glebe, Sydney, Australia, saw no mark of injury, medication, drug or alcohol in her system. He casually mentioned some inflammation of the heart and surmised that it might have been caused by virus, which in the opinion was only incidental. He did not consider that the inflammation might have been due to viral infection causing myocarditis. Yet he skewed expert opinion through Kathleen 40 years into prison without any substantiated circumstantial evidence, that is, without direct evidence as required. What is circumstantial evidence? www.cornell.edu describes circumstantial evidence is circumstantial evidence is indirect evidence that does not on its face prove a fact in issue, but gives rise to a logical inference that the fact exists. It requires drawing additional reasonable inference in order to support the claim. According to www.schuslaw.com, circumstantial evidence is proof of a fact or set of facts from which one could infer the fact in question. As per legaldictionary.net, circumstantial evidence is any evidence that requires some reasoning or inference in order to prove the fact. There is no reasoning or inference in this case. Those legal luminaries assert that without any direct evidence to support, circumstantial evidence has no meaning at all. It is just like a subordinate clause in the language that remains incomplete without a main clause to prop it. The judge, without any corroborative evidence, accepted the circumstantial evidence as pushed by the public prosecutor, and that too an imaginary one, woven with warp of unsound reasoning and weft of psychedelic texture enough to hoodwink a jury of ordinary citizens without any legal knowledge. All the four children had very serious medical condition to cause their death otherwise. Cammodulin 2 and BSN mutations. Sara and Laura Kathleen, who died in 1993 and 1999 at 10 months and 18 months respectively, had inherited calmodulin 2 mutation, that is CAM2, which controls calcium transport in and out of heart cells. One of the best recognized causes of SIDS in infancy and childhood. She was suffering from myocarditis that caused inflammation on heart tissues, which the doctor observed but neglected it as mere casual. He closed his eyes towards the medical evidence in front of him and walked on phantomic realm of probability of Sid's death that took away four children's lives in the same family. As a street medicine vendor, he leaned heavily and unreasonably on the possibility of multiple homicide in the same family that cannot be excluded. The public prosecutor flexed his imagination further and weaved a story to humor the jury that lightning doesn't strike the same person four times. And the jury believed his pompous words. His analogy was way off the field, as the lightning indeed struck four persons, the children, and not one, the mother. He did not consider the medical truth that myocarditis caused similar inflammation on the body and only mentioned it as an important pointer as mere incidental. The judge, instead of relying on the preponderance of medical evidence, lent undue weight on our British paediatrician Dr. Roy Meadows' popularized but ill-conceived notion that one sudden infant death is a tragedy, two is suspicion, and three is murder unless proven otherwise. As quoted by the medical expert, it is haphazard in this haphazard analysis of facts and statistical reasoning. Nobody bothered the implication of a fourth death in the family. All deaths that occurred in the family had identifiable serious medical condition for the sudden deaths. Because of legal ignorance, Dr. Roy Meadow postulated his own law, which deprived an innocent mother of her youth to satiate the whims and fancies of some self-seekers, although the autopsy surgeon did not find any evidence of violence, drug, alcohol, etc. on Laura's body. The judge did not question about it, but found Kathleen Folbigg guilty of smothering them to death during periods of frustration at the prosecution, as the prosecution wanted the jury to believe, and come with a guilty verdict. The judgment showed immaturity in understanding and leaned on the one crime, one criminal view, which whoever be the criminal. A number of defense witnesses testified Kathleen as a loving and caring mother for the children. The jury did not consider those very important statements from those who knew her well, fearing that it will shatter the link of the circumstantial evidence. The judge too failed in his common sense and legal lacuna. The Australian court had scant regard for the axiom that even if thousand culprits may escape, one innocent shall not be punished. NICHD.nih.gov holds that there is no sure way to prevent sudden infant death syndrome. SIDS, also known as script death, was first described in late 60s. It is largely an unexplained phenomenon that typically affects infants in their first years, mostly between 1 to 4 months during sleep. The risk factor not considered are having cousins or siblings who died of SIDS, parents who smoke, children having epilepsy, respiratory problems, and myocarditis. Caleb, who died in 1989, had laryngomalacia, that is, the inward curving of larynx that blocks airway leading to death. And Patrick, who died in 1993, had epilepsy and cortical blindness. Those two children carried two potentially lethal mutations in the gene BSN, that is, Basal presynaptic cytomatrix protein. Both Sara and Laura carried II mutations, which control how calcium is transported in and out of heart cells. One of the best recognized causes of SIDS in infancy and childhood, which altered their heart rhythms, predisposing them to sudden, unexpected death, possibly precipitated by their intercurrent infections, respiratory tract infection, and by medications such as pseudoephedrine taken by Sarah and myocarditis in Laura. According to Dr. Venusia Carola Garcia, geneticists at Francis Crick Institute in London, a well-known genetic expert in COMP2, the death of two children were caused by gene mutation, and the cause of death of Caleb and Patrick were due to BSN gene mutation. What is COMP2 mutation? COMP2 is a protein that in humans is encoded by calmodulin 2 gene. Mutation in this gene is associated to cardiac arrhythmias, that is, irregular heartbeats. This gene has been shown to interact with AKAP9, a kinase anchor protein 9, which is also known as centrosome and Golgi body localized protein. Calmodulin is a calcium binding protein that plays a role in signaling pathways, cell cycle progression, and proliferation. Several children with long QT syndrome, that is LQTS related to rhythms in heartbeats, display the life-threatening ventricular arrhythmias, the irregular heartbeats, together with delayed neurodevelopment and epilepsy due to mutation of these types. Another calmodulin gene family is associated with CPVT, that is catechol-aminergic polymorphic ventricular tachycardia, a rare disorder that causes a number of SIDS in young individuals. These are the cause of deaths of Sara and Laura. A gene mutation in BSN gene, that is basal presynaptic cytomatrix protein, inherited from both parents, father not yet yielded to DNA tests in this case, which in mice was shown to produce epilepsy. An Australian court may soon hear the reinvestigation in which the Australian Academy of Science appears as independent scientific advisor. Whether the scientifically challenged judiciary sets free the much wronged Kathleen Folbigg after 20 years of incarceration or not, because of genetic mutation causing the death, the prosecutor and the doctor found no evidence of physical violence of any nature to implicate the young mother in her children's death. This is probably the first case of this nature where genetic mutation comes to play in a trial. Still, the fact remains and stares point blank at the civilized world's conscience. A young mother incarcerated for over 20 years without any reason in the light of unsubstantiated charge of murdering her four infants. Thank you. Take care. Till I come with another episode of Science and Research News made easy for you to understand. I have taken extra pain, care, and caution to simplify the complicated genetics for everyone to understand and to keep the facts without amalgamating it with fiction to rev up viewers. I am Edwin Williams, EJW Science and Research News, EJW News Podcast. References: Nature, Volume 611, 218 to 222 3 pages of 2022, NIH National Library of Medicine, PMID 167 604 25. Please subscribe and share my channel. Thanks.